bit since I made a video. I haven't really hauled a whole lot, been just rigging with the cranes. Today I have what we call a box beam. It's a concrete bridge girder, and we call it a box beam because it's square. Here's an idea of what it looks like. This is a little one. I think I'm right now 200,000 pounds, so this load weighs 120,000, and it's only I think 113 foot long, so total length is 160 feet. This is the other view. So that's what it looks like when we're hauling them. Remember, that back trailer is what we call a self-steer. So that trailer follows my Jeep, and I have steering components back there that when I make a turn, that Jeep will actually steer itself, and it's hooked to what we call the bolster, which is what the bridge girder is actually connected to. And it's a really neat setup. I enjoy it a lot. It makes life a lot easier. In our area, the Idaho, Utah area, guys like to run the pup trailers that have the person in it in the back, and then the truck driver up front. I'm not a big fan of those at all. If anything happens, that guy back there is pretty much dead as a doornail. If that bridge girder falls off, even just falls straight off. These loads are pretty tall, and they're heavy, and they're real top heavy too. So anything happens, that guy in the back is just, it's not safe. So these trailers are a lot safer, I think. They're a little more complicated to load, a little bit more complicated to learn, but at the end result, they're a lot easier to deal with than, as a truck driver, than knowing you have a human back there. So I'll make a video once I stop. I'm gonna shut it down at a port of entry, drop my load, and get a hotel. So here's my load. There's a little guy. I'm gonna parked in the port. I'm gonna drop my truck, go get to my hotel room. But here's something you guys might find interesting. This is how we drop our trailers. We have to block it up with wood, dump my airbags. I'll first slide my fifth wheel plate all the way back, dump my airbags. It's 100 gallons of fuel, because to try to get this fucking thing into a fuel station is non-existent, and to drop it every time is high risk. So we put fuel tanks on the front to be able to fuel up the trucks while on the road. We run 8 half-inch grade 100 chains on all our loads. Kind of a neat thing with these trailers is they have alignment. So when I'm going down the road, how it tracks is how I set it up. And the alignment on this is the measurement from here to here, and on the same side, there to there. And 1/4 inch off can literally make this track a whole set of duals out. So I'll be going down the road, and I can see this is right here, or the Jeep is tracking there. This whole trailer will be all the way out here. It's pretty sketchy. So your alignment is very, very important. How this system works is you got the bridge girder. So this is the bridge girder. You have the bolster. The bolster's tied into the hat. The hat's tied into the steering mechanism, which is that arm. That arm has a pin and goes to this tridem that steers. So while that bridge girder follows that Jeep, and the Jeep follows the truck, it's gonna move the girder wherever the truck goes, and this is gonna steer these 3 axles. It's really neat. The hydraulics are for when I pull that pin and I have a remote and I have to manually steer it somewhere. But that's usually like extremely tight areas. Like I would never have to do it with this load. This load's too small. But like the 170 footers, I gotta manually steer all over the place, but it'll still go down the road pretty easy, like the freeway. But like getting on the freeways, sometimes I gotta unpin and steer it out. So yeah, I'm gonna get back to business, get to my hotel.
What's up, YouTube? I was reading some of the comments on my prior videos, and I noticed a couple of you guys were asking kind of going more depth permits, how I go about gathering the information about a permit, how to read the permit. So in my experience, permits are easy in certain states. Reading them's easy, getting a permit's easy. In other states, it's an absolute nightmare. Utah, Idaho, simple. We jump online, you gotta build your account, which is really easy to do. And they basically have a step-by-step formula for you to fill out the information, and they'll tell you if you're legal or not legal. This load I have right now is a 13 axle low bed load or heavy haul load. Essentially how I formulate roughly what my load's going to be, because obviously you're going to have to order your permits prior to loading, because sometimes it can take a couple days, and especially with what I'm hauling, you can't just go load and sit there for a couple days with all your exact measurements. So my rule of thumb, how I go about it, is I know what my lightweight is empty. So the steerable, the Jeep, and the truck empty, 77,000 pounds, full of fuel. I just rounded up to 80,000. And then the contractor, the company I pick up the precast from, bridge girders, they know roughly how much their load weighs, or that girder weighs. They have cranes. When they pick them up, they'll, they know. So this particular load weighs 120,000 pounds. So I usually round it up an extra 10, 15,000 pounds. You're going to pay a little bit more on taxes that way, but it's a lot easier to explain why you're over permitted than under permitted to get a ticket. So my permit's good for 220,000 pounds. I have a heavy haul truck, so I'm good for 20,000 pounds on my front end. I will never probably get 20,000 pounds on my front end. The most I've ever gotten on the front end of this thing is 16,000 pounds. So I usually just go in a roundabout way, 14,000 pounds on the front end, deduct that from the 220, divide it by 12, and then I fill it out accordingly to whatever the number was. I think it's like 16,000 per axle. Some states require you to have your grouping. Some states require individual with axle spacings. I know what my axle spacings on the setup is. And this is the hard part now, is figuring out how long you're going to be. So essentially how I do it is off the center of my bolsters to the back axle, I measure that, and then the center of the bolster on the Jeep or the steerable, I measure from the center of the bolster to the back axle, and I have that measurement basically written down. That's a permanent measurement. And then I go from the center of the bolster to the very front of my truck. And then I have basically on this load, this is a really small load, it's a 113 foot long load. I deduct 3 foot from each side. That's the maximum amount that I can overhang on this particular load. And then I just do the math. It's super easy. So this load, I'm only 160 feet long. It's really small. Most of the time we're anywhere from 275 to 225. The biggest I've ever been is 245. And 300,000 pounds. That is an absolute nightmare to haul. I hate it. It's gnarly. We did 75 of them. very short distance. Thank God. Anyways, Utah, Idaho, super easy to deal with. Oregon's a pain in the ass. California's a pain in the ass. Montana is pretty strict. Actually, Montana, Wyoming's really strict. I haven't really heavy hauled any other states. I'm basically a West Coast guy. I live in Idaho. I lived in California for a real long time and started my career in California. Worked for the largest heavy haul company in California. Learned a lot of amazing shit. Worked with some really good dudes. They're very smart, very detailed, had the best equipment, and which enabled me to have a really good opportunity in this field. If you're trying to get into the heavy haul industry, it's kind of do or die. There is plenty of companies that'll give you the chance, but you have to be a lawyer for the laws. You have to be willing to physically work hard, and you have to have a lot of common sense and be able to slow yourself down, because one mistake will destroy your trucking career in general, kill people. It's just there's no room for error in the heavy haul industry. I've done RGN low bid stuff. It's a little easier, but still, I mean, you got to pre-plan your routes. You got to know where you can unload and, roughly what each piece of equipment weighs, so you can axle it out correctly. We run annuals for all that stuff, and I run an annual for my empty weight on this 13 axle setup, because my empty length is 106 feet long. And that's nothing on it. That's just towed 2 trailers. So it's still pretty long. But yeah, so hopefully that answers some questions. Let me know if there's any other questions that you guys want to learn about this industry.